You see, considering how big our world is and how many different kinds of life there are all around us, it's not surprising that some animals get confused with others. After all, there are about 7.7 million species of animals on the planet, with only 12% of them having been formally described. Most of these catalog animals also live on land, and humankind has yet to fully explore the ocean's flora. Hares versus rabbits. Since both rabbits and hares are members of the same family, the Leopardi, it seems sense that these adorable animals are the ones that cause the greatest confusion. However, if you pay close attention to them, you can quickly identify the differences. Hares are often larger, quicker, and have longer ears and hind legs than their close cousins. They also have larger feet. To identify between hares and rabbits, you can also have a look at their fur. You'll note that hares have some black spots on their bodies, whereas rabbits hide in their warrens when they feel threatened. Hares typically try to outrun predators, and, in most cases, they succeed. The moth and the butterfly. These two species are both members of the Lepidae order. Do you really believe that you can distinguish between a little, gray or brown moth and a stunning, vivid butterfly Terra? You might be astonished to learn that there are species that remarkably resemble one another. To be sure which creature is in front of you, pay attention to the antennae. Moth's antennae are either serrated or have feathery wings, which can also be used as a clue, whereas butterflies have club-shaped antennae that resemble a narrow shaft with a bulbous apex. Butterflies fold their wings vertically, whereas moths have tent-like wings that they fold over their belly. Goats versus sheep. Given the many similarities between domestic sheep and goats, it's not difficult to mistake one for the other. Both sheep and goats have cloven hooves and fairly peculiar eyes with horizontal rectangular pupils, but if you look at their tails, you'll see that sheep hold them down while the tails of goats proudly stand up. In addition, both animals have different eating habits similar to cows. Sheep are grazers, which means they wander around a pasture and choose vegetation that is close to the ground. Goats, on the other hand, are browsers, preferring plants that are growing higher up for their food. In certain cases, when presented with particularly alluring foliage, goats have even been known to climb trees. Porcupines versus hedgehogs. Let's go right to the point. Both of these species spin, and their spines are actually just stiffened hollow hairs. They otherwise have nothing in common, and even their spines are the result of independent evolutionary processes. Interestingly, hedgehogs have sharp snouts and teeth, and they are omnivores who prefer to eat insects. In contrast, porcupines are rodents like all rodents and have large front teeth that generally look as if they have never been cleaned. Porcupines utilize these teeth to nibble on vegetation. If you meet a spiny animal in the wilds of South or North America, it's a porcupine. Frogs, plants, and fruit are prevalent throughout Africa, Asia, and Europe. Alpacas versus llamas. Even though both of these even-toed ungulates are members of the same family, it can be difficult to distinguish them at first glance. Llamas are much larger than alpacas, which typically weigh between 100 and 170 pounds, and an adult llama can weigh up to 400 pounds if they appear to be of similar shape. Examine their earlobes. Alpaca ears are small and spear-shaped, while llamas have long, curving ears. A llama's face is also longer and largely hairless, while an alpaca's face is somewhat smushed and fluffy. Alligators versus crocodiles. Alligators and crocodiles both belong to the same order of Crocodilia, and both species share many characteristics with the exception of one: their tolerance to salt. I wouldn't approach either of these animals. Alligators mostly live in freshwater because their salt glands aren't as well developed, but crocodiles are the fortunate owners of special glands that they use to excrete excess salt, so they feel right at home in saltwater habitats as well as mangrove swamps close to the coast. You should also pay attention to the shape of their heads in most cases, though there are some exceptions. Crocodiles have V-shaped jaws, while alligators have U-shaped snouts. Seals versus sea lions. Both seals and sea lions are pinnipeds, or creatures with fins, but sea lions' flippers are bigger and covered with skin, whereas each little toe on seals has a claw. In comparison to sea lions, which can walk, seals are typically smaller and prefer the water to land. You may have noticed that when they emerge from the water, seals prefer to crawl on their stomachs. Seals don't have any external ears, whereas sea lions have ears that resemble cute little flaps. Seals also like isolation, while sea lions enjoy congregating in large groups and socializing with their friends while acting in a loud manner. Bees versus wasps. Bees and wasps, which are both members of the Hymenoptera order, have hairy bodies because they needed to dip into flowers to collect pollen and flatten back legs. Bees appear more lanky. As for the attitude of these insects, wasps have more slender, supermodel-like legs and smoother, hourglass-shaped bodies. Wasps are more aggressive, particularly while defending their nest. These bees, however, are more subdued and submissive. Toads versus frogs. Both toads and frogs are members of the order Neura, but there are some significant distinctions between these species. For example, most frogs have smooth skin, whereas toads have thick, rough skin. As opposed to toads, who have shorter legs and smaller eyes, frogs have long, thin, and tasty legs. If you're lucky, you could also observe that frogs arrange their eggs in a cluster that resembles a cluster of grapes, while toads deposit their eggs in a thread. Porpoises versus dolphins. Both dolphins and porpoises are members of the order Ceta, but you can tell them apart by looking at their bodies, fins, and faces. Almost all dolphins have sharp teeth. Narrow body and curled dorsal fins. The back fins of porpoises are triangular. Porpoises have larger jaws and spade-shaped teeth, whereas dolphins have more prominent, cone-shaped teeth. They also have muscular bodies and rounded faces. Tortoises versus turtles. Both turtles and tortoises are reptiles and members of the Chelonian order, but turtles have webbed feet because they spend most of their lives in water, which makes swimming simpler. Turtles also have lighter, flatter shells than tortoises. Tortoises, on the other hand, prefer dry land since they find it easier to navigate rocky terrain and dig in the soil. You can always tell a tortoise apart by its massive, dome-shaped shell. Jaguars versus leopards. Both species are speckled and both are big cats, but your first clue should be where you see the animal. While leopards live in Asia and Africa, you can find jaguars in Central and South America and occasionally in the southwest of the United States. Another way to tell these big cats apart, if you're brave enough to get that close, is to look inside each cluster of dark spots on their fur. Jaguar spots or smaller leopards are more slender and slightly smaller than jaguars, and they also have longer tails. Which animal pair do you find the hardest to distinguish? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Stay safe and see you soon.